Happy Sunday and welcome to your weekly news recap. I'm Gabriela Perez and here are the top stories of the week. Kicking off the week with some disturbing news, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department shot and killed a 15-year-old child who was escaping her kidnapper. Savannah Graciano, following orders from the Sheriff's Department to walk towards them on the side of a highway in California, was shot and killed. In a newly released video and audio recording 2 years later, we see contradictions from the initial statements by the Sheriff's Department, who said Savannah had fired shots before her death. To this day, the department has not provided the names of the sheriffs involved in the shooting, but they did say in the initial statement that once they saw a person approaching a sheriff, their instinct was to shoot. At first, the sheriff's department said that the girl appeared to be wearing tactical gear and ran towards a sheriff, which we can now see was a lie according to the aerial footage. In 2022, the sheriff's department was able to find Savannah almost 24 hours after an Amber Alert was issued about her abduction. A 70-mile-long pursuit followed with Savannah's abductor, the shooting outside the truck with a semi-automatic gun. When the pursuit came to an end on the side of the highway, Savannah was seen getting out of the passenger side of the vehicle, crouching low to the ground and slowly moving towards the sheriff's deputy, who had instructed her to walk towards him when she was shot by another deputy's bullet. Deputies were not wearing body cameras, but the department released audio from a microphone on the scene. When a California law enforcement agency is involved in a shooting, videos are usually released within a few weeks or months. However, this video was released 2 years after the incident and only after a long legal fight over the records. Next, Idaho lawmakers have passed bills aimed at LGBTQ+ citizens, sparking protests. These bills include measures preventing public employees from using preferred pronouns and redefining gender as being the same as sex. The Senate approved a bill allowing people to sue schools and libraries over certain books deemed harmful to minors. Governor Brad Little signed another bill into law that prevents public funds like Medicaid from being used for gender-affirming care. These actions are part of a larger national debate over LGBTQ+ rights, with many Republican officials working to limit those rights. In response, protesters sent 48,000 paper hearts to lawmakers representing Idaho's LGBTQ+ population in hopes of making their concerns heard. The ACLU and other opponents of this bill fear they could lead to further discrimination and lawsuits. Moving on to international news, the founder of World Central Kitchen says the 7 victims of Israel's attacks were targeted and is pleading for an investigation from the victims' home countries. These include the US, UK, Australia, and Poland. Jose Andres on Wednesday said that the Israeli attack on the 7 aid workers from World Central Kitchen was targeted systematically as they were attacked car by car. The cars the aid workers used had big colorful banners on their roofs showing they were aid workers. Nonetheless, the IDF still launched a total of 3 attacks on 3 different cars. The first attack was towards an armored car where the team was able to escape, moving to a second car where they were attacked again, and finally moving to a third car, where they began unloading 100 tons of food and they were hit with precision-guided missiles. This was not just a bad luck situation where oops, we dropped the bomb in the wrong place, Andres said. At least 196 humanitarian aid workers have been killed in Gaza since October, according to the United Nations, and Palestine has previously accused Israel of targeting aid distribution sites. World Central Kitchen began last month moving food aid to starving people in northern Gaza in collaboration with another charity. World Central Kitchen was founded in 2010 and responds to natural disasters, man-made crises, and humanitarian emergencies around the world. They have assisted Texas, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Ukraine, and more in times of need. The charity was constantly in communication with Israel's military, Arab nations, and others. Andres said it's very complicated to understand America. It's going to be sending its navy and its military to do humanitarian work, but at the same time, weapons provided by America are killing civilians. Ending on another story from Israel, thousands of protesters flooded Israel's streets demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to go. The demands of the protests represent a merging of 2 distinct protest movements, one including the families of hostages, the other led by Israelis' attacks against Palestine, which could become the greatest threat yet to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his far-right movements. On Sunday, the protesters moved from the Hostage Square Plaza in Tel Aviv to the parliament in Jerusalem, waving Israeli flags and chanting for the removal of the country's longest-serving leader. On Saturday in Tel Aviv, Envav Zankuger, whose 24-year-old son Matan is held in Gaza, blamed the prime minister for torpedoing a deal for a temporary ceasefire that would have allowed Israeli hostages to be exchanged for Palestinian prisoners. The event on Sunday was the start of a 4-day rally that organizers hope will either force the government to jumpstart hostage negotiations or lead to the collapse of Netanyahu's coalition, the most right-wing in the country's history. Netanyahu is already under growing pressure from Washington, Israel's most important weapons supplier and diplomatic backer. And that's all for this week. From politics to crime, I look forward to delivering you independent coverage every week. Subscribe and follow my social media pages to catch up on the latest news. I'll see you next week.